What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Grant Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have an empowerment consultant, speaker, trainer, author, podcaster, and more. So if you want to get fired up, then you're going to want to meet this sassy redhead who is in charge of the women's movement to be leaders in this world. And she knows how to help people go from point A to point B and get fired up and be in charge of their life. She's a contributor for Inman News. She's a former chief experience officer for Coldwell Banker. She's been brought in to help with recruiting and training and social media marketing. She's worked with not just real estate professionals, but people in finance, insurance, MLM. But she really focuses on real estate because she was a realtor. Her name is Debra Trappen, and this interview is a whole lot different because I didn't even get to do the intro, because as soon as she walked in, we just got talking about the women's movement, about hiring and recruiting and training and corporate structure and the new form of leadership. So we just never even got to do an intro. And so I am filming this after the fact. And this is one of the best interviews because we didn't even get to do a formal intro and start off. It was just conversation on camera, raw footage. So enjoy this interview, enjoy this discussion, and get connected with her after if you're interested in anything that you hear, which I'm pretty sure you will. So Debra, if you're watching, thank you so much for being awesome, and what a great interview, and enjoy the show. Is the way that happens, where again, the world needs to then see what women can bring to the table. Is it like we're going to force our way there by this movement to get us at the table because you know that when we're there that we'll do a good job? Or to me, it's a generational thing. Where remember he was reading out those things that happen in the workplace?
Yeah.
I was like, man, that never, like I can't even imagine that happening.
Yeah.
With any, at my company or any of my friends' companies who are all young, we're all millennials, like that's just not how we think.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if it's
But millennials don't run real estate.
So
it's happening. Like
yeah.
Some of them were from the 70s, but the bulk of those stories were from the last 5-10 years. And that's the thing, is that we don't think it exists, but it does.
Yeah.
And so while I would love to say that is how we can think, that I want to be at the table because I'm brilliant and a bold, badass woman in business, that's not getting us there.
Yeah.
Being good girls, waiting for our turn to be, for that table to stay the same size, for the number of chairs to stay the same. And when one man decides to leave, oh, maybe we should put a woman. No, we have to say, let's change the rules. Why does it have to be 12? Why can't we expand it for a while? Why can't we get some diversity there? And so in a perfect world, that isn't the deciding factor. But right now, if it needs to be to get more women to the table, I'm okay with that.
I look at the downside protection of this Me Too movement, because this is what my wife and I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
We go, men are now afraid because of the Bill Cosby, now Tony Robbins, like all these people. It actually is, I think, counterproductive, where men are now afraid of interacting with women for fear of what might happen, which isn't good.
No.
And so I'm seeing this like happen, and I'm going, that's not what women wanted when they did this.
No.
And then the other thing is the dynamic between the man and the woman. If there is a heterosexual relationship, then what's happening is, well, women are turning on their masculine energy to be great in business, because man or woman, a masculine energy does better in business.
In business that was created. Oh, is that me? That's me. I should probably turn that off.
Now you have to be in, and I don't want to. I said that you have to be in touch with your feminine side, because there's a whole bunch of people who have a feminine energy in your workplace, male or female, gay, like it doesn't matter. Like there's feminine, and you have to be in touch with it.
Yes.
But when you want to be a leader, because of the way the world is, a masculine energy from a woman will still help. The problem then is, and I spoke with a lot of female entrepreneurs who are very successful, they go, women, when they have that masculine energy, they then bring it home, and they're craving for, most women are craving for a man to be their king, to have a good life so that they can go have their life and crush it and be a woman, but then come home and also be taken care of by their man. And their inability to turn that off then doesn't allow them to have the relationship. And then that gets the guy who wants to please their woman to turn on a feminine energy.
Yeah.
Because it creates polarity and he doesn't want to piss her off. And then all of a sudden men are becoming feminine and not knowing how to turn on the masculine energy. Women are becoming masculine, not knowing how to turn it off.
That's why we need to be creating our own tables. Because the only places where women are doing that are when that's what's required to be at the table. But companies that are run by women aren't like that. They're not running their companies with high masculine energy. They are much more, their business is built on collaboration, connection, community. It's a very different vibe. And so that's exactly why we need to get more women, more feminine energy to the table, because when they are all together, they balance out. Like you have the conversations and the energy flows differently when it is an even representation at the table. It doesn't happen when there's an only at the table, right? Whatever that only is, right? If it's only a woman or only a person of color, their voice isn't heard because they're still a little nervous. You need to have like a pack.
Yeah.
You need to have a pack, or lioness pride is what I call it. And there's so much research out there about that. And so I think that will work itself out as we get more parity in the businesses that currently exist.
Because I was wondering if moving more in this direction is actually going to make that problem more worse, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be happy, and the person you're with is the most important thing.
Yes.
And most women want a masculine energy when they're in the home and they're in there with their family. They want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's studies on that. That would be interesting to know. I think when we go home, we want to feel cared and loved.
Yeah.
And we want to feel safe and secure and all of those things. And I think that the shift is I read about is more money, right? Women are becoming the breadwinners, and more men are staying home, and in particular in the millennial generation, right? Like, it's really interesting the dynamics that are happening in that space. I think part of it is that they can be entrepreneurs. Like, you don't have to go to college. You can order a business license online and do whatever you want, and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I think that we're just kind of in a weird shifting space. I think we need to be careful. I think couples need to be careful to protect that and have real conversations. I hope that they're going to counseling, right? Especially if a woman is in a position right now where she feels that she has to bulldog it at work. Like, it not only for the relationship, but for her, right? I mean, we're being very general right now.
Yeah. And this one female entrepreneur, super successful, like $100 millionaire business. She said the tipping point for me when I became successful was when I stopped trying to be one of the guys.
Yeah.
Because then when you do get a seat at the table, she was like, then it's like, all right, I need to contribute. I need to make them see that I'm just as smart and as capable.
Yeah.
She's like, but here's the problem. I will never be I will be always seen as the weakest man in the room.
Yeah.
But I can now, remember the short-haired lady who was a Platt that was on stage, her and her husband, she's so cool. And so she was like, but as soon as I'm like, I'm a woman, then they're like, shit, I can't even compare you to the other guys in the room, and instantly you are above them. And they're like, they can't be a stronger woman than you because they're a man.
Correct.
And so she was like, so I stopped trying to be a man in the room and just was a masculine female, had a strong female energy, but owned my feminism at the same time and knew how to interplay it.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work for her to like figure that out over many years, or whatever.
Sure. I mean, and it's different every room that you enter.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same for men too. I mean, some rooms you walk in, you've got your buddies and it's, hanging out and chill, and other rooms where you're like, to pump up the machismo in this room because it's going to help me more. And I don't think that there's anything different to that. I think what you're talking about underlying is confidence, is women feeling confident to bring what they have to the table. And there's so much research out there, even around applying for jobs, right? Like women wait to be 100% qualified to apply for a job. A dude, 50%. 50, he's like, I got 50% of this, I'm gonna apply. I mean, over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so we need to do both. We need to bring the confidence level up in our women, because remember, we've only been at this for 30 years.
Yeah.
Men have been at it for way longer than we have.
Yeah.
And so we're still learning how to do this. But so we're building the confidence here, but we also need our corporations to say, do we really need all of this in a job description? Do we really need all of that? Because if we do say we need all of that, we are going to lose people. So what do we really need?
Interesting, because
Right?
one of the things that we like, so Amanda is like an amazing salesperson, and I know that women, when they are really good at sales and want to be a good salesperson, they're usually better than males. And the problem was we kept putting out job postings for sales, and we just never saw female applicants. And we're like, and we would hire them just because you're a female, like, please, like, you want to work here and you're a female, you have a job. And then they wouldn't work out for all a bunch of reasons. And we're like, man, we just want more females to apply. So we're not just hiring a person because they're female, we're hiring them because they actually are better than all the other male applicants.
Yeah.
And there's enough of them to actually sift through them all.
You need to speak femme language, though.
Okay.
Most, it's an interesting issue inside the real estate space as well, is people don't want to consider themselves salespeople. They don't want to be salesy. They don't want to be boxed in that, because that feels awkward. It feels like Larry from Three's Company. It feels like, like somebody's trying to do something to you or get you to do something for them that they don't really want to do. And so even like networking, the term networking, that's not a word for them. Connecting, way better. So somebody with strong communication skills, somebody with good connection skills, somebody that can collaborate well. Intuition is a big part of why that's a feminine energy. And so that's why women do well, because they're win-win. They're not like, I gotta slay this dragon. They're like, I want to slay it and I want to tame it. Like I want to tame it a little bit. And so they bring that energy, which people want to lean in, and they think, okay, I'm being cared for. And so you just look at your job description and say, what in here is bro code?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, our job posting is so bro, and we were always like, what the fuck? Like, why don't we see more females? And we actually now have 2 female salespeople, and out of 20, and they're in the top 4. And so we're like, see, like women can do this.
More.
We want more.
Look at
And
your
so
words.
maybe you should look at the words. That's cool.
Look at your words. And actually, I would say if you've got women who are doing well in the role, ask them to write the job description.
Yeah, good.
Say what would you say your job is here?
Okay.
And really just paint a better picture. Really, that's the thing with storytelling, is it's in every aspect of what we do on this entire planet. Everything that we do is about telling a story to get somebody to lean in and listen to us, and to lean in and look at our job or our product. And it's a beautiful thing when you get to the core of what it is. Like, what is that job? What is it about Amanda that is so amazing? What is it about her interactions that are different? And there are things that are different. The thing is when we are good at something, we think everyone else is too, and we don't realize that that's part of our superpower.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's like Amanda's big thing. She's like, why doesn't everyone just get how to sell like me? Because she just is so good at it. And I'm like, because Amanda, like people just don't think like you are. I don't think like you. Like, you have to figure out how to teach that.
Yeah, well, part of it is probably having people like watch her.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure would make her feel super comfortable,
Yeah.
basically, based on everything else that you've said. But she needs to show by teaching, and not in front of a room. But like, this is
And
how
it's so
she has
funny,
conversations.
the other 2 female salespeople that we have, when we asked, they started doing really well. We're like, what are you guys doing? Like, let's try and dissect it. They're like, not really anything. And we're like, no, you obviously are doing something. Like, like, we got to dissect this, and they were just not really into sharing it or talking about it or thinking anything much of it.
Right, because it's normal. It's how they interact with humans.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I have this conversation all the time when we're trying to like nail down someone's purpose. Like, what is your purpose statement? And everyone thinks, oh, they got to go on this like Zen vision quest to uncover their purpose. And it's like, no, like, you're already doing it. Mm-hmm. What is it? Mm-hmm. Like, are you the entertainer? Like, do you entertain people? Do you make people laugh? Do you nurture people with food? Are you the listener? Are you the teacher? Like, I fire people up, straight up. That is my purpose on this planet. And I do it in a variety of ways and in a variety of places. And so it never looks exactly the same. However, I didn't realize that was my purpose until I defined it, right? And so I was doing that when I was a little girl on the, you know, playground with my friends, and they're like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm like, it's in you, like, you can do it, like, grab the bar. And it's beyond motivating, right? It's activating someone. It's like waking them up. I think the beauty is that once you figure out who it is that you are, that it's easier for you, even as a company, even as an organization, to start seeing, okay, so we've got a puzzle person, we've got kind of a comedian joker, like, how does everyone work together? And you can start to put them in the right places, right? And once you identify their purpose, that's probably a consistent thread, I would imagine, in those women. There's something around their purpose that is coming out in the conversations that they're having with the person on the other side of the phone.
Well, I think even having this on camera is just, again, show the reason why women should be leaders and empower, because they can make people just talk and feel comfortable and have a cool conversation, actually talk about cool things, and not be like, we're talking about substantial things, and it's not like there's some, like, sometimes I interview people and I know they're just putting on a face.
Yeah. Well, I don't come into a conversation wanting to win.
Yeah.
Like, I the things that are important to me, the opportunities like this allow me to share my passion for them, right? So really humans understanding who they are at the core of themselves, defining it for themselves, not letting the media or the industry or anyone else define it, knowing what their values, their true north are, knowing that soul tank and their purpose. That's super important to me. Yep. Same with the Woman Up movement or women's empowerment. I mean, that's been something that I've been passionate about for a decade. And now it's a super hot topic, you know, but 5 years ago even, people were like, really, Deb? Like, you're gonna focus on women only? I'm like, well, yeah, I am going to focus on, that doesn't mean men aren't allowed at the table. And let me tell you, what's really interesting is, you know, we kind of talked earlier about the feminine energy, and I have never tried to be a man. Like, never. Like, it wouldn't even cross my mind. That doesn't mean I don't have masculine ways of thinking, but I mean, I've got wild red hair, and I always wear red lipstick, and I'm always in a dress, or like, I don't ever feel the need to be a dude. And for the first couple of years in my business, like, people would say, I think your message might be too feminine. And I would say, I think you're underestimating your audience, because 60%, right then it was 57, is female, and they've been sitting in the room listening to war analogies and sports analogies for 30 years. 80 years, and they've been just fine. And what the really cool thing is when, you know, like a 70 or 80-year-old man will come up to me after I've done a keynote, and they're like, you know, it's always, you know, slightly inappropriate, darling or honey or something like that, but, you know, whatevs. Yeah. They know, I know, they're not trying to hurt my feelings, they're not trying to, you know, demean me. I can categorize that, right? But they're like, I've never thought about my business like that. It's always been, I have to win. It's all about numbers. I got to do this many calls and this many this and this many that. And it's very statistics driven. And while that's important, it's also really important to connect on a human level. Yep. And now more than ever, because we are so disconnected with all of the connection tools that even just sitting down having a conversation for some people is really hard.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's like, oh, I got to touch my phone. You know, like what's happening out there, as opposed to just sinking in and going, well, like, where is this conversation going to go? What's going to happen next? What else you got on that piece of paper?
Yeah. So one of the things I actually did want to ask you is, when you're talking to a person, anyone, real estate agent, entrepreneur, someone, and they have these goals and they don't have that spark, that muster to go after it and do what it needs to happen to go get there. Some coaches and consultants are like, someone's either got it or they don't. And I've always been the mindset that everyone's got it. It's just whether or not the flame is small or big.
Yes.
And if they're doing the wrong thing,
Yes.
it'll keep that flame small.
Yes.
So my job is to figure out what that thing is, what that mission is, the purpose is, what the thing that makes them excited and confident is, to then be able to turn that thing from little to big.
Yes.
Do you agree with that philosophy? Or do you think some people have it, some people don't? Do you think everyone's got it? You just got to find the thing that gets them to have it?
Yeah. It's like singing. Everyone has a song they can sing. Every real estate agent has a niche that they can serve. Certainly. An introvert buyer does not want an extreme extrovert agent. They're looking for someone who they're going to feel comfortable with, right? And so what I have experienced in the 17 years in this business is that once you slow down and you say, again, here is what I value, here is what I love to do in my off time, and here's what my purpose is, those three things will help you define who your ideal client is in this business. And I feel like if agents took the time to figure out who their ideal client is, notice I didn't say only client, but their ideal client is, that it would actually fix a lot of those issues, them not selling, them not loving the business, because it happened to me, right? I started in the business when, I was in my 20s, and my broker was like, oh my gosh, you totally need to do first-time home buyers. This is the perfect niche for you. And I was like, okay, awesome. I'll do first-time home buyers. And within 6 months, I was like, I hate this business. And during that time, I was going through life coaching, and my top values are things like mastery, which includes efficiency and effectiveness. Also aesthetics. Like aesthetics are very important to me. And I mean, those are two things you don't get working with first-time home buyers. You're getting like the lowest of the low houses, and they want to see everything. And they ask a million questions. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but they were totally out of alignment with what I valued. And so once I shifted and I started doing more relocation work and more luxury property, it was a totally different industry for me. And so because those clients, like a relo client, would come in 1 weekend, they'd want to see 15 properties, they'd make a decision, and it was done. Luxury, they valued their time over their money.
Yep.
And so they fit in my core values. And it seems so simple, but so many people don't do it that way. They do it by geography, they do it by what their broker told them, they do it by, sometimes even worse than any of those things is, they came to a conference and saw a top producer panel and thought, I want to be on that panel. And so they tried to emulate someone else's success. And they didn't know what that meant.
How do you help people find out their values?
So they go through, so I take clients through an exercise. Like there's an actual exercise that you go through. And there's about 50 or 60 words that it's Barrett's system. It's really interesting. So like a scientist and a theologian, it sounds like a joke, but they traveled the globe and they basically found like these 50 or 60 words support almost all human values. And so you go through the process. Now 11 is a big number for me, and so I let people have 11, but they have to prioritize them, right? So their top 5 kind of shines. They get 11 words, they get more words, but they're looking at their top 5. And it doesn't stop there, right? You really have to learn how to infuse them into your decisions. How are you setting your goals? Again, people who set goals that aren't aligned with their values don't achieve them. If you value family time and you're building your goals around finances because of what it's going to get you with family time, you're going to be able to go on more vacations, you're going to make those goals. But if you say, I'm going to write a book, but you really don't want to write a book, you really have no desire to write a book, it doesn't fit in your big plan, you're not going to write a book. It's going to be on your to-do list for 10 years. And you can easily find that out once you define your values. It's right there. You're like, oh, no wonder I haven't lost weight for the last 30 years. Well-being and healthy lifestyle isn't something I value.
So do you have like a course that people take, or like you said there's like a way you have something for people?
Yeah, so actually that I can give you a link so you can put in the show notes for them to download the core value exercise for free.
Okay.
Like that's just kind of a entry level, right? Like here is where you start.
Yep.
And that's a really fun process to go through. I always tell people, start in the morning with coffee or tea, whatever that is. You're going to probably end the night with like scotch or wine because you're like, I want all of these words because they're such good words.
Yeah.
You know, but once you get to those 11, it is electric. And once you start looking at, should I go to this event? Does it hit my values? Is it aligned or not? Oh, it's so much easier to say yes very confidently and no very confidently.
Okay.
Which again is another reason why agents don't do well, is because they say yes to everything and they're exhausted 2 or 3 years in because they didn't focus.
What are you working on right now?
So I'm writing my second book, which is
Cool.
awesome. We've talked about it a couple of times. So one of my big projects and clients is the California Association of Realtors on the Woman
Yep.
Up movement. So we've got a big event coming up in October, and then already planning 2020, what's going to go on with that. We will be actually back up in Toronto next
Cool.
year, so we'll be sure to reach out. And, you know, part of my mission for the next 5 years is to do less, right? So to be paid less for my time, so more residual income. So e-courses are going to start coming out and some fun things like that. But the book and Woman Up are my two biggies.
Cool. Okay. I got some lightning round questions, and then we'll to finish this off. What are your top 3 business books in your head right now?
Top 3 business books?
Give me 3 really great business books.
So Lean Startup is probably the one that I go to the
Yep.
most. I would say Mel Robbins' 5-Second Rule is at the top of that list. And third, gosh, there's so many. The one book that I'm reading right now is Why Women Don't Ask. It's not a top business book, but it's the one that I'm reading, and it's so good.
Cool. Who are some real estate agents or brokers that you think are awesome?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's not a fair question because I have so many beloved people in my life. How about I give shout outs to the people who are here that I'm going to see in the next couple of days. So Barb Betts is amazing with her company is Betts Realty. They're amazing. There's Nina. There is obviously Sarah and Leslie with CAR, who aren't realtors, but they're in the real estate space. Oh goodness, Tracy Sichterman. I don't know if you know who she is, but she is rad. She's doing some cool stuff with doing, not staging, but actually going in and really remodeling and doing homes in a really cool way in Berkeley. Vanessa Birkmark is amazing. I mean, if you need a list of people who are just
Cool
awesome in the
interview.
space. Yep.
All right.
Yep. No, notice they're all women.
Now
I just
everyone
shared.
everyone listening is like, oh, you just seem like you have so much energy and so positive and optimistic and all that stuff. What brings you down? What do you know internally, self-aware, that like brings your energy down, and that you have corrective? I'll get to your corrective measures in a sec. But what do you know kind of brings you down?
So I'm an extroverted introvert. So large crowds, like happy hours, are not my happy place. So that's a place that drains me. Also, one of my top 5 values is justice. So when I see injustice happening, it is like put a fire in my belly. Like I just want to go to bat for that person.
And then when you are noticing that you're low energy, in a bad headspace, what are some of your things that you do to bring yourself back up?
Oh, that's an easy one. So that's part of what I teach people is your soul tank list, right? And so some big ones for me are yoga, meditation, hot bubble baths, walking my dogs. My husband and I love wine tasting, and we live about 1.5 miles from Woodinville Wineries, so in Washington. So there's about 150 wine tasting rooms. Hop in a lift and go door to door and sip wine. Those are, I mean, sing, karaoke. I mean, there's a million things.
Cool.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you?
Easiest way is my website, it's debratrappen.com, or I'm at Debra11, Debra11 on pretty much every social network that's out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was definitely an interesting show. So if you want to get updated with more shows, I'm sure will also be interesting with other real estate leaders so you can be great in real estate, then subscribe to the YouTube show, subscribe to the podcast, and follow her so you can get fired up and so you can get some totally different perspectives that will help you be more holistic and probably help you grow your business. Thanks so much for being on the show.
You bet. Awesome.